Welcome to the Virtual Railroader Academy tonight, everyone. We are sorry about all those technical difficulties. You can probably understand why we were having them now that we are live. But welcome to the business train and our 1 year anniversary.
Of Railroaders Play Railroads Online.
We are back in Railroaders Play Railroads Online tonight. It has been far too long since we've been in this game.
It has. And we're shaking it up as a result of our absence.
We are. The railroad's very different than it was a year ago. There's a lot of new stuff going on here. So I suppose we should probably explain a little bit about where we are and what we're doing tonight.
Yes, we have to admire once again the wonderful architecture of our chief engineer, Rudy Lowry.
We're down here in what were we calling this? Mashonkin? A honk? I don't know. Asokan. We're down here in Asokan. And we are heading towards Western tonight, as part of the Asokan, Mohonk, and Western. And we've got a business train. We're going to be inspecting the railroad that we've built. So over the last couple of weeks, we've meticulously rebuilt a moved industries railroad, mostly because we were bored, really than any other reason, and wanted to do something different. And so we have a business train and a whole new moved industries map. So we're going to be kind of doing the business train thing and inspecting that railroad tonight. Rudy's built a lot of it, while Nick and I weren't here. And we were here for some of the building, but Rudy mostly built a lot of this. So,
I have not seen this before.
No.
I am truly the Wall Street executive who hasn't been on the railroad that much. The good news is I got my law degree, and the bad news is that I haven't actually spent that much time looking at the physical infrastructure. So this is my chance to do so.
Like any good narrow gauge railroad, we're getting onto the B3 here, our California Zephyr Dome car part of the business train. And like anytime I've gotten onto a nice car, someone has handed me an adult beverage. So I have my adult beverage for the evening. And I'm ready to inspect the railroad. Well, once you're on and ready, Nick, we'll give our engineer the highball, and we can get out of here and start inspecting.
I am ready.
All right, Squeaky, highball.
All right, here we go.
I'm gonna put some. I love having that we essentially have our own private cars. Like we have our private train, then we have our own private cars as well.
We do. I'm gonna stay back here in the B3. What am I in B3?
Yes, you're in B3.
I am in B3.
I was gonna throw some logs on the fire to warm myself up, except there are no logs. So.
Well, we are going to fire our porters.
There was the porters, not the locomotive porters. Not the Betsy style porters.
Yes, no,
we could fire those
porters.
too, but that would be a very different type of fire.
It would. Ooh, I gotta be careful not to fall off.
Well, there's plenty of wood in the tender if you need to yoink some.
I think RO physics would bounce me back to the very end if I did that. Well, there's the Mohonk Flyer hanging out over there in the other station track. And we're off. So we have our special guest for the night, because I am no expert on office car trains, is our very own Rudy, who will be helping us out learn what we're supposed to be doing today as we're inspecting this railroad.
Good evening, everyone.
Before we get to our conversation with Rudy, just to remind everybody that this is a conversation. So if you have questions about office car specials and executive trains, and in particular Conrail / Norfolk Southern OCS.
And first, holy shit, Midland, thank you. Coming in to break another economy.
Oh, we
Holy
have a
cow, he
quality
did it
breaker
again.
at Munster.
Yep.
Much appreciated. But yes, let us know if you have questions about office cars, Conrail office cars in particular. We have a recommended book which we'll be dropping later, or just anything about railroading. Tonight's a little bit of a Q&A, because like on any business car train, you're shooting the shit with everyone. You're networking. You're talking about stuff. It's the railroader. You know how big was that fish story? That kind of stuff tonight. Drop your questions. We'll get to them at some point, if not right away. So, what are we supposed to be doing here, Rudy? I'm hanging out on the back car.
Yeah. I mean, really, a business train served a bunch of different purposes on the railroad. You as a railroad executive would be inspecting the right of way. You might be meeting with, your local division management or something on the train to go over the right of way as you're going down, going down the tracks. You'd be talking to them about capital improvement projects, that kind of thing. Or you might just be traveling from point to point. You may, in this area, you'd be traveling by train anyway, so you might have your own private car so you can work on the road. So,
Outside of just hanging out in the back, I guess Nick, we should probably network a little bit. How are
Oh.
things going over here on in your car? Everything nice?
Yep. I did. You will note that I did fill for some fuel from our locomotive
Oh, very nice.
for my own personal gain and benefit. So
make
that
sure
is what I've.
make sure the accounting department is aware of where those resources were spent.
Yeah, it's an account. It's a.
It was
company.
reappropriated.
Yeah.
That's every log accounted for. So a question that I have is that it seems to me that, especially in the 21st century, that the function of the OCS has shifted because, and I don't know if this would have been the case at all with the Conrail era, but with NS, that oftentimes the train would just move from one location to another almost empty. And it was just sort of a staged hotel at things like the Masters games down in Georgia.
I mean, certainly it could be used for that as well. But there were a wide variety of uses for business trains that even today. Almost famously, Union Pacific ran a business car train over Norfolk Southern a couple years ago, all the way into Newark.
Oh, I remember that. It came down the
New
southern
Jersey.
tier.
Yeah, because they were surveying potential routes for SAC trains, and they wanted to, bring in all of their shareholders and customers and be able to actually ride the route and show the efficiency of it. So there are lots of purposes for running a business train. Some of which have, made it through the last 150 years of railroading, and some that are relatively new, like things like the Masters games and stuff. Those are kind of more new uses for those kinds of cars, those kinds of trains. So, the biggest use going back, to the era this game is set in, the 1800s, would have been twofold. It would have been, again, travel for railroad executives, and having a way for the executives to travel between locations, and have a place to entertain their guests that came with them, essentially, instead of them having to have a different, venue at each location. They had to travel with them. And B would have been for customers to, survey the line to see, at a time when information didn't travel as easily as it does today, you would want to be able to, survey, say, if you were going to take the Rio Grande or if you were going to take the Union Pacific, and get a sense of, which railroad had the better routing for your product or could do it more efficiently. And sometimes the only way to do that was to go see it in person. So the railroads would very much, wine and dine these people, potential customers, potential investors at that time when they were building, to show, the efficiency of the route, show what they've done already, and what, where people can expect their shipping dollars or their, investment dollars to go.
Huh. No, see, I hadn't thought of them as like hotel cars. Like, I knew they did the Masters train every year, OCS at least, but I never thought of that as like they're using it mostly as a hotel. I always figured that was like they're you know, they got corporate tickets and they're sending a whole bunch of, you know, board members, customers, down on the OCS as like a thank you for working with us type of deal. I never
Yeah, and
thought
that's
that they'd use it as a hotel while it was there.
yeah, and that's not unprecedented. I mean, you know, Conrail did that, and there's another several other railroads that did that. Even going back, I mean, well into the you know 1800s, going back that far, where they would, you know, send a train full of Pullman cars somewhere for some kind of special event, especially like a railroad convention, or something of that nature, where they'd have a bunch of railroad executives on site. For some kind of special event, they'd just send a train full of cars for people to sleep on.
Huh,
So
fascinating. You may want to pinch it down a little bit here, Squiggy. This hopper's getting just a tad spicy. Going through all of those, we'll call them a curve, not a kink. Um, 677, fun fact, briefly met a couple months ago the interior designer for NS's OCS fleet. Did not know they had their own interior designer.
yep,
I had
It
not thought about something like that.
yeah.
it makes sense because I don't know how those cars have been remodeled from the Conrail era, but I know that a lot of them have been remodeled from their original functions. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, some of them have been, even if they haven't been remodeled from their original functions, they're still going to be barely recognizable today in terms of what the current interiors look like. Um, yeah, there's one NS car that was a traditional kind of business car layout. Um, the observation room, a couple bedrooms, a dining room, and a kitchen. A regular observation car. And they actually took all that out and put tiered seating in the back and a big glass pane in front of the open platform. Um, so there's certainly been some major remodeling done, and of course all of that, they're entertaining people, they're entertaining politicians and potential customers, and obviously their own executives, perhaps the executives at the railroads. Uh, so they want it to be the most modern and sleek and uh, attractive design they can fit into whatever available space they have in the car. Serving both form and function, but also appealing in design nature. So yeah, I mean you got a fleet like that where NS has 15, 20 cars. Yeah, they have their own in-house designer that basically works on them and keeps them up to date, changes out curtains where they need to get changed for a different style if the style changed over time and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now we heard we referred to our fine engineer, Mr. Squiggy, at the throttle of our train. I, I'm sure that in the course of your research and experience that you've come across folks who were tasked at some point with crewing uh, the Conrail or NS OCS trains. How was the process? Because I imagine they must be really picky with the selection of an engineer for that task.
It's funny. Conrail wasn't. Conrail would call a crew off the expert board.
Really?
Yep. Yeah,
Funny that.
actually, one of the gentlemen that I work with in one of our nonprofit organizations happened to be on the extra board and was qualified in the second tier, and he got a call one day for OCS 101. Just happened to be the train he got called for in his rotation.
Huh.
Wow.
Never run any unit before, never had anything to do. It just I threw him on the train and said, "Here, be careful. The entire company's behind you." But
Quite
yeah,
literally.
I don't know how they do it. On other railroads, I believe NS has got kind of a dedicated engineer that travels with the train, or at least did when they had the F units. I don't know, if other railroads have dedicated engineers. I mean, certainly, things like UP, if they're running it with steam, they're going to have a dedicated engineer for that, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to be in the cab somewhere. Um, but yeah, I mean, Conrail didn't care. Conrail just said, "Here, it's an EMT. You can figure it out."
Hmm.
Now, obviously, onboard staff, that's a different story. Um, Conrail had a dedicated onboard staff. They were full-time employees. That's all they did was work on the OCS train.
Wow.
Um,
We have a
and
diversion.
Go ahead, Squiggy.
We have a We're lying to a diverging siding.
Oh, we should probably not diverge. Or I
Oh.
guess we can. It's too late.
It's a runaround. It's a runaround.
It's
fine.
fine.
We can,
It's fine.
yeah, we
I'll-
can sneak around.
But yeah, I mean, the staff at Conrail for their office car special was almost exclusively retired Pullman porters. If you
Huh.
think about the time that Conrail was running, Pullman had ceased to their last service was in 1968.
Yeah, I guess there were a
So
lot of
when
people out of a
Conrail,
job.
yeah, when Conrail started running office car specials in '76, they went and hired a bunch of Pullman porters. And they became full-time Conrail employees that worked just on the USGS train. A lot of them lasted the entire length of Conrail up through '99. If they were younger when they were laid off by Pullman, if they had been laid off and they were in their 30s from Pullman, they would have made it up to the end of Conrail and been in their 60s. Um, yeah, a lot of them were retired Pullman porters. They had the Pullman training. Were stewards or various tasks at Pullman, cooks, chefs. I mean, Conrail got a lot of use out of their train. Obviously, they had a massive system. Um, Most years they were averaging the train on the road about 250 days out of the year.
Wow.
So it supported full-time salaries for the people that were on it.
Wow. That's a
What were
lot of
those
time on the
folks
road.
Yeah, what were those folks doing when they weren't on the road?
Well, I mean, you think about it. If the train's on the road for 250 days out of the year, it's about the number of working days there are in a year.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
minus weekends. That's about it. They just happen to work weird schedules because they'd be out for 10 days and they'd come home and be home for 4 days and go back out.
Yeah.
So, but
Part of what
Going back to.
intrigues me
Oh,
about
sorry.
I was going to say part of what intrigues me with the Conrail OCS setup too is that it seems like there was sort of their longer, like their bigger trains and their smaller trains, and obviously they would mix equipment between the two. But I'm thinking of when you'd have the 4021 and the 4022, or the 4020 and 4021, and correct me if I'm getting the numbers wrong, but the two Pensy, former Pensy units, and
Yeah.
those would go together, and then you'd have the 4022, which was the ex-Erie E8, and that would usually handle a shorter consist, correct?
it honestly depended on the era. So the two Pensy units were equipped with AGP. They came from Amtrak actually. The Erie unit never got AGP installed in it. It had AGP pass through, but never had AGP, so it could not power a train on its own post 1983 or 84. So earlier on in Conrail's existence, they only had 6 or 7 office cars. You'll see a lot of pictures of 4022 in blue pulling 3 or 4 car trains. But by the end of the 1980s, Conrail had over 15 business cars and about 5 or so research cars that they would sometimes throw into the business train consist for extra capacity. So you could have a 20-car train and you have 2 or 3 of the units on it. But very rarely was the 4022 used post 1984 on its own. And if it was usually an equipment move of some sort. They used to keep, for a while, they kept the locomotives in Harrisburg and kept the coaches in Reading. Sometimes they would shuttle cars back and forth between the two, or they shuttle locomotives back and forth. There you might see just the 4022 running by itself, but not necessarily without the 4021 or 20 on a full size train.
Rudy, did you know you could actually own 4022 for only $158,000?
Yeah, I did know that.
Sorry. If you really want to go economy breaking.
Yeah.
Because the former 4022 has now reverted back to its original paint scheme, which is, and heritage, which is Erie number 833, which is for sale.
That engine would look really good in Port Jervis.
It would.
Yep.
So if anyone in chat's got $158,000 plus shipping and would like to donate that engine or at least store it there, we can certainly arrange that.
And I'm sure Operation Toys for Tots would be more than happy to use that locomotive on their annual trains.
Yes, we would. We just have to put it in front of the power car because it still doesn't have HEP. That engine still has a steam generator in it.
Well, just
Right.
convert everything back to steam heat.
That's true. We could do that too.
Yeah.
But
Just do it for the kids. Do it for
Yeah.
the children.
Yeah.
You know, all
They
that
could be adults.
magical steam heat wisping out of the leaking joints between cars. So that
Yeah.
way the people in the back are freezing cold.
Yeah.
People on the front are sweating.
So, but yeah, I mean, and certainly that's railroads use their cars for different things. I mean, Susquehanna pretty famously used their business cars not just for customer retention and customer interest, but also for excursions.
I mean, there's how many photos of not the Otto Perry, Walter's car wrong way around behind 142.
Yep.
Oh, once
Talk
you
about
get
the yard
a,
we're coming into.
yeah, we are. Do you want to talk about Plateau Yard? You kind of, you want to
Hill
slow down
Valley.
through here, Squiggy? We'll stop up next to the station.
Yeah. So this is the rebuilt Hill Valley Yard has been relocated over to the other side of the hill. Gives a little more room to build on some flat property here, and that's the Hill Valley Station there on the right, and then the yard is visible off on the left here. It's our main yard on the railroad, the largest capacity for cars and sorting and that kind of thing here. There's some storage tracks at the far end as well.
Hill Valley Station is excellent.
Yes, I was admiring the architecture on that.
I mean, not very narrow gauge, but still very cool.
This is a very unnarrow gauge, narrow gauge.
And we have another
Well-
passenger train.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's about as narrow gauge as you get right there, in the sitting on the station track. So,
Is Walt going to be missing his cars?
uh,
I hate
Walt's,
that.
Is he going to
Walt-
be missing the Retlaw?
Walt's been gone for a long time. I don't know he's missing a whole lot at all.
Are they
So,
also 3/4 scale?
I think so. I mean, they look pretty much the same size as a way car. So, I mean, it's about the right scale, right? I
You
believe
want to creep
I
ahead
believe
slow,
the power
Squiggy?
on that. I was gonna say, I believe the power on that train is appropriate as well.
Ah, God, so we'll have to get a shot of the power as it comes up.
Yeah.
We'll just have to
Could
make
you
sure we
repeat
pick
that,
up.
please?
Yeah, creep ahead slow.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna ride my ops car here and observe the power like a true executive.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that would be done on a business train like this. This would give your executives who were, even in the 1800s, were very much still office. It was you sat at a big desk and made important decisions.
And once we get out of the yard, we do have some photos of those big desks and important decisions being made.
Yes.
So we'll have to hop to that once we get out of the yard.
Yeah.
Oh God,
But-
no, I don't like this. Oh.
I love it.
There's
gets
not
me in the mood
enough.
for Christmas.
All right, I'm gonna go back to the bar car. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean,
Heading up to the bar car.
this is exactly what a business train would be used for, is inspecting the equipment, the condition of things, the railroad would be checking to make sure that everything was in tip-top shape and looked vibrant red and vibrant green. So
There's
good.
there's real railroad history of yard crew saying, "Hey, the executives are coming around. Hide that locomotive."
Yep.
Oh God, yeah.
There's a pretty famous one of an Erie Alco switcher that made it all the way to Conrail in full Erie paint 16 years later. Because anytime the executives for the EL came through, they'd hide it somewhere. So
Wow.
there's one Erie Alco switcher that made it in full Erie paint all the way until 1976
Wow.
in operation. I believe it was in Meadville.
I was gonna
Oh,
ask if
that's-
it was Meadville, my
Yeah,
old
It was
hometown.
the Erie 520.
Hmm.
So
And it'd be very easy to hide a switcher there because Meadville was the site of the car shops, so there were a ton of tracks. some tracks going off into the woods where they famously scrapped a lot of their steam locomotives. So you could hide a switcher there very easily, especially in
Yep.
that yard in the 70s when it was very, very full.
Yep. So they would just squirrel it away, and it was their shop switchers. They'd squirrel it away somewhere, and when the train passed, they'd pull it back out.
Oh no, that's a good looking mogul. I like that mogul. It's black, not Disney.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like some of the other executives might be wondering why it's not painted vibrant colors like the other one. And see, now you'd be having an important discussion aboard the train with all of your executives about corporate branding and marketing, which you wouldn't be able to have if you were sitting at your desk.
I don't know.
In the main office.
Nick, do you vote for black as our marketing color, as our corporate colors? I like black for steam engines.
Largely yes, but I am all in favor of having an LGB heritage unit.
Damn it. What is this, the Susquehanna?
Well, funny you should say that.
Squiggy, there may be a Mrs. Line switch up ahead. Just be careful.
Got
I don't think he can end up anywhere other than back on the main. If he goes to the wrong
No,
way up
I think I may have chucked the MOW train there.
Oh, well, that I can help you with.
Alright, 677 Productions. That's what NS did with a couple of messes around the horseshoe curve a couple years ago. Didn't clean it up until the OCS was going to run through like 3 years after the fact.
Mhm.
That's the most NS thing I've ever heard.
This checks out.
Alright, well, let's get some pictures going, and we'll take a first couple of our Q&A questions that were submitted. Alright, so what's this first one we have here once you see it?
So that shot's taken aboard a Conrail SDS train in January 1st, or January 17th, 1984. It's inspecting the Port of Albany, New York. And there's some pretty big names and railroading in that photo. On the left is Walter Rich, who was the president of Delaware Oswego and Susquehanna, a couple other short lines. Behind him, kind of crouched in the windowsill there, that's L. Stanley Crane, famously of the Southern Railway, and at this point, chairman and CEO of Conrail. To his right there is Ron Batory, who was a division manager at Conrail at this point, and was actually quite recently the head of the FRA. He only retired about 3 years ago from the FRA. And the far right is Lou Rossi, who was at the time the head of the New York State DOT's rail division.
Oh, very cool.
This is the kind of thing that would be done in the business train. You'd be, physically inspecting the port, talking about, hey, our trains can come in here, and we can interchange your trains there, and we can make this work here, and this is how we get this traffic. And a lot of places where you'd have to work together, and you'd have, in this case, the state of New York working with, local and upper Conrail management, and a short line to get traffic, to get some kind of rail traffic in. That's exactly what the trains would have been used for.
Oh, very cool.
Narrow Gauge Connection, Ron Batory is a board member of the EBT Foundation.
Yes, he is.
Fun facts. This one comes from Midland. Thank you, Midland, for sending me some of these. From his recent trip on the Reading and Northern, riding in the King Coal here. I think we have some photos a little bit later on of the interior once we get to them. But, not strictly on an office car, but it's where the big wigs ride on the Reading and Northern at least.
They used his office car too. So,
yeah, I've seen that pop up numerous times on their office car train since they got it. And I mean, I don't blame them. It's a gorgeous car.
Yeah.
The former Illinois Central Mardi Gras was owned for a long time by the Roanoke chapter of the NRHS, and often seen at the tail end of NRH trips involving 611 and 1218 in the 80s.
Dare I say it's very nice to see it back in Tuscan red.
Yes.
Moving on, I think this is another one of yours, Rudy?
Yeah. So that is the interior of Conrail 12. Conrail 12 was essentially their open space car. It was basically a giant tunnel, and they could do whatever they wanted with it. They used to use it a lot for buffet, or in this case, kind of like a cocktail hour space. You can see they got some food there on the right. So I'm not sure exactly what this event was, but It was some kind of like state railroad partnership in Ohio, but I don't remember exactly what the event was. But it's certainly going to be, maybe some politicians, maybe some local businessmen, Conrail executives, marketing team, operating personnel, that kind of thing. Again, exploring the railroad and kind of trying to figure out what they can do to make something work. So,
Very, yeah, it's like a banquet hall on wheels.
mhm.
All right, I think this is one of my favorite ones that you've sent me. Hopefully it shows up soon with the stream delay.
Yeah, that's the track geometry car. So, uh, some railroads, it's kind of related to business cars, but a little bit different. So some of the cars were outfitted with some special tools to be able to measure the track. And this car specifically had some like laser devices that would measure, for level on the track or curvature of the rail or any of that kind of stuff. Um, they had all kinds of X-ray equipment to check for cracks in the rail, defects, that kind of thing, gauge, all that kind of stuff. And what you're looking at on the left there is some,
Oh.
1980s era computers that would allow them to read that in real time. This car was actually outfitted with little spray paint cans that would automatically spray the rails wherever it found a defect as they were going along at speed.
Oh, well, there you go, BMAC. We need one of these for you to just mark stuff up.
He would just have the spray can run out of paint in the first 30 feet, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at that track right there, that looks like a defect. Like just in the right-hand window there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, how the rail like kicks over.
Yep.
It's like a nice curve, and then all of a sudden the rail just kicks over past
I'm-
tangent. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it
no good.
curves then tangents instantly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this car was used in a lot of like capital improvement projects. They bring this along with them with the business train, and be like, okay, here's what you guys want to do. You want to run a stack train through here. Here's all the stuff you have to fix, and they could do it real time with the executives on the train, which is pretty cool.
Um,
Wow.
this is another one of yours here. What, are we coming up to something? Are we meeting a train? Squiggy's just whistling. Squiggly's just whistling. Okay. This is another one of yours.
Yeah.
Looks
So
like communication controls.
that's the communication controls. That was the back of Conrail 9, which was their feeder car.
That's
The
on
tiered seating.
NS now, right?
No, that's CSX now.
Oh, okay.
Went to CSX. But yes, that's the communication controls of the PA system. They had a radio there to communicate directly with the locomotive if they had to. There's a PA so they could do announcements or even narrate as they're going down the tracks. Here's where we are, here's what we're looking at, here's what this is, kind of thing. They used to use that to give presentations, and just I don't know if you have a photo that I sent you in here, but there's a couple in this car showing TV screens up over that big glass window in the back. So sometimes they'd use it to give a presentation or even give a readout. Sometimes they'd have those screens which show, they had cameras mounted in the front of the E8s. So you could look out the front and the back of the train at the same time from the same seat.
Oh, that's very cool.
Mhm.
And this car became number 23 in Buena Vista. So if you've ever seen the NSOCS or photos of it, this is the interior of that theater car before NS.
No, this is the CSX one. This is not the NS one.
Oh.
The NS one is modeled on this car, but it is not this car. This one went to CSX.
Oh. Okay, then this is another one you sent me.
Yeah, so that's me at age 6, standing in the dining room on Conrail Business Car number 3.
That is, it looks like a dining room out of like my grandmother's house.
Yeah, this is 1996, so that sounds
That
about
fits.
right.
It hasn't changed since then.
But so this is actually interesting because it illustrates one of the other uses for these cars, which was public events. This photo was taken at the Altoona Rail Fest in 1996, and they had the car open to the public. So it was something they could show off, kind of put their best foot forward. Of all right, here's how we conduct business. Here's our conference room right here, our dining room or whatever, where we do this kind of stuff. So I got to see that when I was 6 years old, and I don't know that I appreciated it then, but at least I enjoying myself. So there's that.
This may date me a little bit, but I remember going to the Metro North open houses at Harmon, and
Mhm.
getting to pre 9/11, and getting to check out their EL cars. They had those
Mhm.
open one year, and there's a photo of me somewhere because I was just digitizing photos for my mom of like me inside that car as a kid.
And now this time I'm more confident I'm right on this information. This car was built in 1928 as Michigan Central one. So it
Mhm.
seems like it always had an executive function.
Yes. Yeah, I believe 3 was the oldest business car on Cardinals roster.
Hmm.
Huh.
All right, and this one comes from another viewer, CA Railroader, getting the ride. I think this is the Feather River route on a UP OCS train. He worked for a short line, and UP invited all the short lines in California out to ride the OCS one time. So I think that this is one of his.
That's a
And
nice
Yeah.
shot.
we're again another Midland photo inside the King Cole.
As I say, speaking of short lines riding OCS trains, I actually got to ride an OCS train uh, in 2015
Hmm.
because Pan Am held a conference for all of its short line partners. Um, and we did uh, we did a big loop tour into East Deerfield and back um, behind the F units, and there was a 3-car train. And again, it was a good way for us to network. I got to meet, some of the people that I'd never met before that I worked with at Pan Am. Certainly some partners that we'd worked with in some form. Even one of the guys on the train was the guy that worked at Rigby Yard in Maine. He was the Rigby Yard master.
Hmm.
And just having the chance to talk to him a little bit about what our service was up in Maine at that time. And actually, there were some achievements from that conversation in terms of service improvements and what making our needs and their needs work together in terms of what our interchange service was going to be.
Oh, no kidding.
Again, while sitting there working to the railroad, which was pretty cool.
All right, sorry, had to put that away while I saved. And I think this is the last one from CA Railroader, the UP Theater car. And you can see that's the look out of the nose of the engine up there, up on the top screen.
Mhm. Yep.
Looks like following the route on a GPS.
Oh,
Yep.
that's cool.
And
Yeah.
you got your brake gauge, you got your clock. That's not a speedometer. I'm sure speedometer's digital. Hey, there you go, speed 28.
Mhm. Yeah. Conrail's tiered theater car was actually the first one of them built.
Oh,
Because they custom designed it in like 84, 85. And then it was basically copied by everybody else almost immediately thereafter. Because everybody saw that one and went, "Oh, that's a
well,
good idea."
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, it is it's a very cool car. I never realized it originated with Conrail.
Yep.
So was the Beech Grove then a copy of that too? Amtrak's uh, car with sliding door at the back? Or theirs doesn't have a sliding door, but um,
And there's I don't think it's tiered, is it? Or may have been
No, it's
rebuilt with
oh
tiered
not.
seating later on.
no, I'm thinking of the Viewliner. That's tiered. I don't
Yeah.
know the name of the Viewliner, but the Viewliner is
Hmm.
tiered. But yeah, Beech Grove is just
Yep.
a modified Amfleet tail. You're right.
Correct. Hmm. Yeah. The Conrail one was actually built out of a Via. I think it was a Via like lunch counter or a Via dinette car or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's nothing like what it was originally.
What was the number on that one? The 9, you said?
Conrail 9. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, according to your buddy Wes.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Fox River started its career in 1954, built by Pullman Standard for CN.
Mhm.
Originally built as a dinette.
Yep.
Well, I think we should start moving into some viewer questions before we continue talking office cars.
Yeah.
Since we have quite a little list built up that we were sent previously. But if you're in chat right now and you have questions about railroading business cars, any dumb train question, maybe not any dumb train question, but train questions in general. drop them in chat. We'll throw them on our list. We'll get to them. Nate, why don't you kick us off? What do we got going on?
Our first question: if you could become the developer of any of the games you use, what elements of railroading would you add to them?
Ooh,
Great question.
it really is. And anyone in the voice call here, there's a handful of us hanging out. Feel free to chime in. It's a tycoon element, which is, I think, is going to shock a lot of people here who are going to expect me to say, like, simulated steam chest, realistic firing. But no, it's a tycoon element. And Rudy, you and I were talking about this a while ago. But how you get billed at midnight every time someone else's car is on your railroad. I would love that.
We had the entire conversation about car hire mechanics.
Just like you had like let's take Railroader for example. Like cars show up at interchange, you deliver it to the industry. That they're going to unload that, and you got to get it back off your railroad because if you don't, you're going to get billed for that car being there if it's not off your railroad by midnight. And I just love that as like a thing you need to fight against. Past another train. Like playing with the whistle.
That's part of my inspection
like it.
process.
You may want to slow down so we can get back on, Squiggy.
No, I'm not running.
Oh, okay.
Keep going as you're going.
Are you just teleporting ahead?
No, I'm just walking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
Enjoying the
enjoying the
scenery.
view.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
inspecting the
Taking
track.
my time.
But anyway, that's that kind of a mechanic is something I would love to see in a game. Cause like imagine like you're purchasing your engines, you're buying your track, you're buying your structures, you're buying whatever, you're spending money on track maintenance, and then it's like, crap, I gotta get this car off the railroad. I don't have enough money to pay for this to be here today. Like just imagine that as like a tycoon element to try and balance. I'd love that. I think it would be a lot of fun. Anyone else have an element? And let us know when you're back on, Squiggy. Or, Nick, and we'll start speeding up again.
No, I'm ahead of you. You could speed up now.
Oh, okay.
I've got
Person.
I've got a bit of a wild card one. I would add story and characters because we have so many that are out there that are great. I mean, different levels of great with regards to things like physics, covering different eras, different types of railroading, but none have yet really introduced the idea of story and character. And I think that so often, when in general, when we think of railroad history, we tend to get focused on the equipment. But I read this great book by H. Reed of the Virginian Railway, and it's one of the best railroad history books I've ever read because his ability to get the character of the Virginian really made it stand out in my mind. And so, with any of the options that are out there today, yes, one could recreate parts of the Virginia Main Line and drive trains on that. But to actually have non-playable characters and NPCs that you interact with and get the character of a coal-hauling Appalachian Railroad is something that intrigues me. And not just with that railroad, but I think it's something that could get more into the personal histories, the cultural history that surrounded the railroads.
Before we continue, Matt just texted me he needs to get going, and there was a question on here for him.
Oh, don't worry about it. I was on a call earlier. I'm good to stay for a little longer. We can keep
Okay.
going.
All right. So after this question, we'll hop into the question someone sent us for Matt.
Yes.
Anyone else? What do you want to see in a railroad game? Train game.
I was
Well,
gonna.
for me personally,
Go ahead, B-Mac. I'm sorry.
No, that was Squiggy.
Oh, Squiggy. Sorry. Wow.
you're good. Well, for me personally, I would really like to see in-depth, I guess, locomotive and rolling stock customization. I mean, sure, you get that. You get some of that in Railroads Online, but I would like to see like some, I guess, ways of have like thorough customization of like different for customizing your locomotives, like anything from like different types of headlights to like different components, like whether or not you want to apply feed water heaters or mechanical soakers or apply different types of stokers. Like that way you could like represent like maybe you want to represent specific prototypes of a railroad, like for example the New York Central with their H7E Mikados. Especially toward their end of the careers in the 1950s, they were have after lots of repairs and rebuilding, many of them became essentially individualized. With some had retained their original cabs, or had shorter cabs. Some had their coal trailing trucks replaced with Delta trailing trucks when they had boosters, which were later removed, and many had a myriad of different tenders. Some had their original tenders all the way to the end, but a lot had different tenders from different locomotives at the very end. So based on what I get at, so I would like to see like different kinds of a wide variety of customizations, so that you could have like your own unique spin on your locomotives for your railroad, so to speak.
That's
just
cool.
want to see a I just want to see a Shay with a bell pair firebox.
Oh,
Every steam locomotive on my roster would have a mushroom smokestack.
Some people say there's such
mean-
thing as too much customization.
Did I find the line? I think I found the line.
Nonsense. It would add character and flair.
Yeah.
It would add
Exactly.
character.
I mean-
Those are two things it would add.
I mean, if you can have in-depth character customization for a myriad of games like Dark Souls, The Sims, or a mobile game like Tower of Fantasy, I can't see why you wouldn't have that level of customization for a railroad game or railroad simulator.
Question, Rudy. Do we need to go
Yeah.
visit the logging line?
And you can if you want. Make sure you have your brake pads or brake shoes on before you go down there and come back up. Especially if you're going up to the actual logging camp.
Or do we skip the logging camp and go to the iron mine first, and then up to the Mashonkan?
The iron mine line isn't that different from anybody else's build, I don't think.
All right,
so.
yeah. So we'll take the trip down to the sawmill and the we'll go check out our lumber camp for our not sister railroad, but our subsidiary.
Well, your engineer's down for the challenge.
Okay, so we'll have to
May need a
we'll
hot
probably
road
have to
back
slap this
grade,
for a
but-
climax inside a plateau here.
Okay. The question that we want to make sure that we ask Matt while he is with
Yes,
us
this
is-
one came specifically for Matt.
It is simply hashtag where railroader.
Where railroader?
it is right now in a few of our Steam libraries,
It's in
and
every.
also floating around somewhere on the internet.
It's in everyone's
I mean-
library here, isn't it?
I mean,
think
that's
so.
what I'm doing right now. I mean, it's what I'm doing right now because, apparently Railroads Online can't support more than some number of
4 people.
at the same time.
Technical difficulties earlier. We're getting more than 4 people into RO without the game crashing.
Yes.
Rip.
But going back to the previous question, as and someone who has a little bit less experience in the preservation steam railroading space than a few people here, just being able to find any simulator that one accurately or even at all depicts oil firing.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's an itch that I can't scratch anywhere except when I'm volunteering.
Oh, I'm gonna make your day. I'm gonna make a recommendation
Oh.
for you.
Are you?
Oh.
To tie
Are
in
you?
with something. Yeah, I am.
Ooh,
And
that's
it's
exciting.
gonna tie in with something we saw earlier today.
Oh.
Yep,
Well-
that is the thing.
The other thing being, there's nothing really out there that'll get you like the niche of starting up a locomotive. Like you don't have to put a circulation pump anywhere. You don't have to turn on your oil heater to get the oil not to become sludge. You don't need to drain the water out of the dynamo when you start it up, or the pump when you start it up. You don't have to do those, like, I guess, minutia things that no one really thinks about, but when someone tells you, you say, "Oh, that makes sense." You don't see that very often.
That's far
either.
enough, Squiggy.
You know, all the 2 hours that the fireman has to show up before the first trip of the day to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
That's the one.
so
Squiggy, far
this
enough.
is kind of like
Yep,
the
we're
meme
breaking.
of kind of like the meme of I'm about to ruin this man's whole career. I'm about to make this man's whole day, because I've got good news. I can check off items number 1 and 2 for you.
Before you do that, Squiggy, since you're a faithful engineer for this OCS, there's a climax if you just follow the track straight back. That's just got a fire in it, and I already put a Lincoln pin in B3, so you can creep on up.
Heading over there.
Nick, go ahead and break them.
Disneyland Railroad Simulator.
Oh,
That is a
I
thing.
forgot that existed.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, it has such good firing mechanic.
Oh,
It-
but it's Disney.
It is, and that is what I thought when I first came across it. But I will tell you what, it is the real deal. You can start your locomotive from cold, hook a compressor line to it. Everything is there. And it's an
No
oil
way.
You know,
Yep.
you have to heat your, so there's like a heater for your oil before you
Yep.
start running it. It is everything.
All right.
Yes,
So
and I hate
question.
it.
Oh my god.
Question. Do the locomotives have brakes in the game?
No, just straight
Yes.
air for the cars, not for the engine.
Well, straight air for the cars, yes.
So it is accurate.
It is.
Neat.
Yep. Yeah,
It's like
it has wheel
sadly
slip.
a good game.
Am I? Oh, that's upsetting.
No, it was made by this guy named Preston, who is a super Disneyland Railroad fan, and so you could operate locomotives number 1 and number 2 because they are mechanically identical.
Right.
With either the historic Retlaw 1 or the Retlaw 2, which was the freight cars. It is most enjoyable. You will have a great time, I guarantee it.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about having a great time with Disney engines, but we'll see.
Oh, and it has it does have an AI fireman if you want to focus just on driving, but you can also do all the tasks yourself if you want.
Yeah, that's
It's
wow.
the trains are really good. Everything
That's
else is
awesome.
okay. But the
Alright,
trains
guys.
are really, really good.
Yeah.
All you in chat that are developing video games, you can learn something from Disney.
Oh.
Ah.
Hey, Q-May, did you hear that?
Oh,
Oh, whoops.
You said that out loud?
Hey, there's already a Disney train model in this game, so I think we're fine.
It is an office
Yeah.
car special, you know. Some of us have been drinking a little bit.
I
Alright,
want to address 6777 Productions. No, a diesel does not count as an oil-fired locomotive.
What
mean,
about an early oil electric diesel?
No?
What, like the CNJ box cat?
Hell
Uh,
no.
Yeah.
Squiggy, you're
Or the
pinned in,
Ingersoll
handbrakes are
Rand,
off.
yeah.
We're cut away from the Glenbrook.
Yeah. Yeah, they were
You can
considered oil
start
electrics.
taking us down to the sawmill.
So, I guess for me, like what I would like to see in a game, some of the more rare steam locomotives, you know, things you don't like. Every game for some reason apparently needs a Union Pacific big boy, you know, even though there's only like what 24, 25 of them, you know, every train game I've had, except for the present games. I'm assuming until Steam Workshop support comes in. I've had UP Big Boy, but I've yet to see a game that has like small Steam, like lots of released game that has small Steam, such as we've got my personal favorites like B&M 10-wheelers. You know, not a lot of people know about 10-wheelers, or you don't see a lot of 10-wheelers out there in
You see
games.
even less B&M.
It's even less B&M. I think KNL Trains has 3 engines.
One.
One, and,
Just have the
one and one on the list.
Correct.
Yes. So yeah. So it's like or maybe some main central locomotives. You don't see a lot of those. Okay, that was it.
yeah, no,
There you
that's I agree with that. I mean, aside from the AM and W being solely mogul powered, at least in Railroader, there's you don't really see a lot of small stuff, and let alone like Northeast, like it depends New York Central, occasionally a New Haven thing, but like nothing really like truly New England.
Yeah, I for one would welcome the opportunity to drive a Swedish steam locomotive through Maine.
Yeah, right.
Indeed.
Yeah, if I could throw my 2 cents in for the game ideas or something. Well, actually, 2 things. First off, when I wanted to go back to 6777 Productions about diesels counting as oil-fired locomotives. No, they don't count as oil-fired locomotives, but they do start oil fires. And second of all, my biggest thing I'd love to see is maintenance. That's just my personal thing, just how I came up through railroading. Just bringing like a locomotive into the roundhouse, open up the journal boxes, opening up the motor compartments, all that stuff. Just giving it, like the diesels, giving it a full 92-day, or if it was the steam engine, giving it a 30-day inspection, boiler wash, and all that. And then car maintenance, picking up the cars, rolling one of the trucks out, changing the wheels, all that. That's what I love doing.
I agree. When you first said maintenance, I thought you were going to suggest maintenance of way, which I'd also love to see. Being able to have a big hook out that you take out on the line that you could actually operate the hook and lift things with it. But I agree with what you're saying too.
Yes, we do need a big hook. I love those things.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing like actual maintenance of way work. Like you got to walk down the track, inspect the track, and then you find yourself a loose bolt. You got to, or a broken washer, and you got to knock the bolt out. You spend about 3 hours out there because the joint bar, when you go to put the new bolt in, doesn't line up, and because the rail moved when you took the bolts out, and then 3.5 hours later, after you're done driving wedges in and sliding the rail back down to 1.5 inches so that you can get the new bolt in. Right?
That's a little bit painful. All right, we have a lot more on the list here to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next question on here is for Casey and Nick. So how did you both of you start working with trains, and what got you interested in them?
Well, yeah, I'll give the spark notes. Well, it's just me and my sister, and my dad and grandfather wanted a son, but I was the oldest, so I got roped into doing everything with them. And I got to see Ross Rowland blow through and not Port Jervis, blow through Suffren at way faster than the speed limit for in there, and thought, holy crap, that was cool, and kind of got interested in trains from there, and had a friend down in Pennsylvania who invited me to come down to his tourist railroad while I was in college over the summer, and signed up to start. I got tossed into a cab for a cab ride that same day, and the fireman said, "Here, you want to try shoveling?" And it's like, yes, and gave that a shot. And then second time around, the same little bit later, engineer goes, "Hey, you want to try running?" And let me sit in the seat for a bit, and empty train heading back for the end of the day, and did that, and I signed up immediately. Like, got back to the station, hopped down, filled out a volunteer form, and started doing the thing. So that is how I got my start in trains and railroading.
Nick, what about you?
I feel I a little ill-equipped as far as getting into quote unquote working with trains, because I really haven't had much experience as far as doing operations volunteering. It's something I really want to do more of. I've mentioned on the stream previously that just this past February I started to get trained as a trolley operator at the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, and that's really my first experience with operations outside of somebody sort of saying, "Hey, you want to take the throttle for a little bit." So on that front, and tying it into the second part of that question, I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania, which is a very pretty area, but there's not a lot as far as rail preservation or operations are concerned there. So for me, the interest was largely modeling and going out on trips, but I wasn't near enough to a base where I could actually be involved in operations on a regular basis. But what did it was my father, who grew up in Canada in the late 50s, early 60s, who got to experience the mainline steam excursions, especially that Canadian National hosted during that era, with his siblings. It took that love of Canadian railroading and held on to it even as he moved to the States. So that's why even now, though I'm U.S. born, I still have, anytime somebody says Canadian Pacific or Canadian National, my head cranes a little bit slightly, because that's always going to stand out in my mind. So I do largely fall on the former side as far as just appreciating them, but I'm hoping that this decade for me is when I get to actually get my hands on things more. Proof to say you're never too old to get involved or feel like, oh, I'm missing out.
Oh, absolutely.
You'll get your opportunity eventually.
You can always start getting involved, no matter how old you are, no matter if you think it's too late, man, woman. You can always get involved, and everyone's do it. Just that's the simple thing, is you think it's cool, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
there's
start
always
somewhere.
people who will help find, if it's a geographic challenge, there's organizations that are definitely amenable to volunteers who could only come once a year. The Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, I made it clear to them, hey, I could probably only come once or twice a year, and they were fine
Squiggy,
with
that's
that.
far enough. We can start shoving ahead.
Yeah, so
Yep.
we're in the main yard here for the Mohonk Logging Company, which is our logging road here. So this is their kind of main kind of sorting yard. Nowhere kind of V-shaped, so everything has to come in out of this yard to come back up and down the hill, and that's designed actually so that the the locomotive is always in the downhill end of your train, no matter which direction you're going.
Hmm.
So
This is a cool way of coming down here. I wouldn't have thought of doing it this way.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
guess
that is
I'm
pretty
realizing
cool.
now that bridge passes over the line to the logging camp.
That is really cool.
This is gonna be a cool trip.
yeah. Next question we got in here from our viewers is what is your favorite locomotive? And I guess this is directed at everyone. So
I don't have a favorite, because if I have a favorite, the others will be mad at me. But my favorite that I don't work on, gotta be 2317. I have loved that engine since I was a kid, and saw it in 07 stomping up the Pocono grade, and have been awestruck by it ever since.
I think
And
if we're going with that credentials, if they're going to be angry at me if I don't pick a favorite, it's going to have to be the 18-tonner. our Plymouth 18-tonner, because if that thing gets angry at me, it's going to throw me across the room.
So it has to be your favorite.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yay for the small industrial switchers. I'm right there with Casey. I am 2317 has been my favorite. That was one of my dad filmed 8mm stuff all the way till the early 90s when I was born. Then he switched to VHS. So there were reels. One of my favorite films that he did involved 2317 in the opening scene, and my filmmaking could be traced all the way back to those early days of watching 8mm films on the wall. That's a 2317 is part of that. It's a perfectly portioned Pacific. Say that 5 times fast. And I hope to see it running again someday, because it is an absolutely wonderful locomotive. And I'm told by those who know that the CP steamers, especially the G3 Pacifics, of which 2317 is one, the G5s, such as Ohio Central 1293, and the D10s, the 10-wheelers, such as the Reading and Northern 225 that they have in their display in their parking lot, are excellent drafting locomotives.
I've heard that as well from people I know who've run George Hart's G5s and or not George Hart's, Jack Showalter's G5s
Yep.
way back in the day. Well, Squeaky, what's yours?
For me, I really can't say I have a favorite individual steam locomotive. I tend to think of it as I kind of have. I guess I have favorite steam locomotives by railroad. The one that appealed to me the most would definitely be the New York Central, hands down. With Union Pacific being a second, as well as ones from the N&W, Southern Pacific,
Good favorite.
as well as the narrow gauge roads.
What about you, Hostler?
Like active steam engines,
What?
probably.
Any.
Any.
Oh,
Your favorite
any?
steam engine. Yeah.
Oh,
One
any
you like
would
to fire, one you have fired and you love. I don't.
Well, I mean, just steam engines in general that sadly don't exist anymore would be the main central class S Mikados. Just because they were beautiful, just perfect lines and everything. There's a family photo of my great grandfather leaning out of the cab of one at the Bartlett Yards.
Oh, cool.
But one that's actually existing would be Canadian National 7470, because that's how I started my steam career, I guess you could say, was firing for that, putting her back together, and then actually being able to light her off the first time back in 2019, and just spent the whole summer firing for, which was a dream come true since I was like 2 years old.
Getting to be the first person to light off an engine you helped on like a 1472 with is, or even an annual, is just such an amazing experience. You feel all of your hard work come to life. And you're like,
Yep.
oh my god, this long winter is over. It's finally done. Like, it's happening. BMAC.
Yeah, we did get a different question that said favorite steam locomotive you've worked on. So you probably tackle both of those at once.
We can tag on both of those once. I don't have a favorite because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah. So the what was the original question? What was it specifically?
Your favorite
This
steam
was your-
engine.
Yeah.
Favorite steam engine. Okay.
Or engine.
All right. So
Think of,
favorite engine.
Yeah.
It does not specify steam, correct?
it does not.
CNO SD18s.
That's the weird one that we were talking about the other day with the Alco truck, right?
Yeah, it's the Alco tri-mount trucks off of the RSD4s, I believe, or 5s.
Those things are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just this odd thing that, like, only one railroad ever had them. Well, not only one railroad. Only one railroad ever bought them because it was a trade-in. Basically, CNO handed over their RSD 4s and 5s, and EMD handed them a stack of, I think it's 18 or 19 SD18s. And then they went on to different places. A couple grain elevators in the Midwest, Indiana Railroad had one. B&O Railroad Museum had one for a short time in Chessie colors, and then they sold it to INRD, and then INRD blew it up. Insert Krieger meme. Anyway, yeah, it's sad, but yeah, that would be hands down. Like, if we were gonna go with diesels, they'll just be a contrarian. There's that, and then for steam, again, I'm not allowed to have a favorite one that I've worked on, because again, like, if I did, then the other ones would get angry, and then bad things happen. The ejector won't start or something. You know which one I'm talking about. The injector will just refuse to start because I said the other one was my favorite. So no, won't do that.
The one steam locomotive I've worked on is a Cagney, and boy was that fun.
Those things are cool.
For those who aren't familiar, Cagneys are these little 15-inch gauge 440 steam locomotives built by the Cagney brothers um, for amusement parks back in the teens and 20s. And there's a little over a handful left in existence. I got to run an original one. It's like a little bottle rocket. It's zippy and fun.
I believe Strasbourg has one, and I
Yes,
encountered
theirs
that
is
as
an
well.
original one. That's a good point. Yeah, if you want to see a Cagney in action, you go to Strasbourg Railroad.
All right. I think this is a good place to stop to turn around and head back down the hill, Squiggy.
Yeah, you're running out
Yeah,
of track space
we're
here.
out of track here. I'll tie on
Um,
a handbrake.
So this is the. Oh yes, I see. This is the logging camp.
Yep, this is the logging camp on the little plateau up here. Just we're backing out in the switching lead here.
Huh.
So the next one's a question for Casey and Nick. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time in these games playing with steam locomotives, both here or in Railroader. And both of you are involved in some form in preservation. What do you think the future is for steam locomotives and steam operations?
Squiggy, you can start taking her back down the hill, and I think it's what places like the Reading and Northern, the Fort Wayne group with what they're doing in Indiana. I think it's those kinds of things. Getting off the main line, getting onto a regional, where you can run it, 45 miles an hour with 50 miles of open track. I think that's the future of where at least big steam operations are going. Places like the Strasbourg, the Valley, Durango, and Silverton, they're never gonna die. They're gonna keep doing what they've been doing. And they're gonna be around forever. But what we know is big mainline steam. I think it's gonna migrate to those short lines or class 2s, regionals, whatever you want to call them.
What do you, Nick?
I think biofuel is going to become a big thing. I'm liking what.
Yeah.
I know there was a failed attempt here in the States. I'm not sure if they ever regrouped. I hope that they did. I had a lot of interest in them, but I know England's had a lot of luck with torrefied biomass on some of their engines. So I hope that comes to fruition here in the States and becomes a thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm not clear on whether it was a failure. I just haven't heard anything on it recently.
I know people who were there at the test run with 11. It did not go well.
Oh, okay. Fair. I was there, but I didn't get the after report. So you
there's someone I know got the fire that hopped up in the cab while they were in the yard and got the fire while they were doing the test runs in the yard and reported back on it. It powderized on the grates. So they didn't have. It seems like they didn't have the consistency right to handle the vibrations. But but England has apparently made it work. At I want to say Keighley and Worth. It was firing on a mixture of Russian coal and torrefied biomass this year. Maybe straight biomass. But I do think that's as far as the future of solid fuels go. To maintain that historical element, I think that's the future, and I hope it works out.
That, and you also see all of these waste vegetable oil conversions as well. Grand Canyon Railway being one of the early adopters of that philosophy. Yeah. And I think that you're right. I think that it's accepting that there's going to need to be change because of the nature of the availability of these fuels, as well as the public's expectations of what is reasonable. Because I've heard from more than one. I think actually on my podcast about marketing and railroading, Eric Mensis of Western Maryland Scenic Railroad addressed that while they do photo charters, and they may even do a run by with heavy smoke, for the most part, when it comes to actually sharing photos of their locomotive, you'll notice this. Go to Western Maryland Scenic Railroad's Facebook page. It's a clean stack because they don't want to be sending the wrong message
Huh. I had
So
not caught on to that.
yeah, it's not the type of thing I would have thought of either. But now that I've had that pointed out, and he's not the only one that I've heard that's adopted that philosophy. I think that we're seeing that across the industry. Uh, and some people bemoan, oh, it's not like the way it was, and that's true. But I think we also have to kind of move on and say, well, what can we do? What are the new opportunities? Rather than just trying to focus on, because I think a long time the rail preservation scene has kind of been stuck in the 1980s. Could we get back to the 80s mentality of all these mainline steam excursions? And I don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's accepting that and saying, okay, but what can we do? What are the new opportunities that present themselves that we couldn't do before? And I think of the Joliet Rocket experience that the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society collaborated with Metra on. And that's the kind of thing that excites me.
That was very cool.
For
That
those
trip.
yeah, so those who are unfamiliar with the Joliet Rocket, that was they ran Fort Wayne ran 765 with a full consist of streamlined coaches from Joliet, Illinois, into downtown Chicago on Metra's former Rock Island line, and the thing is that it wasn't a super long run. It was about an hour in each direction. But when you arrived downtown Chicago, you got off the train, they backed the steam locomotive up, and then they brought it back in so you could see a steam locomotive arriving in downtown Chicago with the chuffs echoing off the skyscrapers, which was phenomenal. And then there was music and beverages and I think they may have even had smaller doors, but it was designed to really be a throwback. They had they incentivized passengers to dress up in historical clothing so that a lot of people were dressed up, which made the train a really cool atmosphere. And that kind of creating that kind of ambience is not something we would have seen in the 80s. And so I think things along those lines, events, is where it's going to be at. I'm also biased to having enjoyed that event because I did get to do one of the station announcements on the actual intercom announcing the train's departure, which was life goals moment, and that made me really happy.
So we got a follow-up question for both of you. You just spent a bunch of time talking about steam locomotives and the future of steam. But do you have any favorites among diesel locomotives or electric locomotives?
I do. Ow. Sorry, I just got hung by a bridge. I'm honestly not
that's
sure
your
what I
head.
expected to happen.
That's because telltales are not installed in this game yet.
Yeah,
Honestly,
like the
I
line
expected
outside
to
of
be
the
able to
train.
phase through that. So deep cut, I was not even alive for this diesel existing. Trainmaster. I love. It was one of my first Lionel sets. I still have it from my grandfather. He bought it post-war. But a post-war FM Trainmaster EL paint. That was one of my first train sets growing up, and I fell in love with the Trainmaster since then. I would love to see a Trainmaster. A baby Trainmaster. I think there's one real Trainmaster left in Canada. That's far enough, Squiggy.
There is it. It's awesome.
I want to see a Trainmaster. Probably an unexpected answer for me, but because Alco honorary steam engine, but no, Trainmaster.
Nick, what about you?
Oh, well, this is a stretch because I think the intention was locomotives, but I really love the Brill center door cars of the Philadelphia Red Arrow lines.
Oh.
So car number 66 at the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. Back when I was a wee lad, that was the Santa trolley. Still is the Santa trolley. But you'd ride out and get to meet Santa, and you'd sing Christmas carols. So that has a nostalgic feeling. But as an adult, I've come to really love interurban railways, and that is a chunky boy. That is I want to say it's 15-ton car. if I've got that correctly. It's a heavy car. I've now run it, and it's a blast. It feels powerful. It feels like it wants to go fast. So I'm partial to that. But I would also say that as utilitarian and functional as it is, I love the lines of an Alco S2. I love the noise it makes. I love the Alco chug. Um, I mean, Alcos in general. I could go on at length too about my love of FPA Force, but I think the S2, it's just a nice utilitarian thing. It's utilitarian, but it has a nice aesthetic look to it.
Cool. Right on.
Let's
So, next viewer question here is kind of ambiguous, so I'm not sure if it's referring to the game or if it's referring to anything in real life. The question is, what is your favorite moment on your railroad?
Okay, so I'm gonna do two, and then we'll probably be in Plateau by the time we get there. We can talk. You can explain Plateau Yard to us and what we're looking at while we're up there. But in game, I think my favorite moment is playing Railroader, and not in any stream type of setting, but Nick and I, we were double heading up a hill with a heavy train, and it was one of the first times we were all in the game together, and getting in the game and double heading up a hill and going like, and the sound just blasting your ears out. It was like kind of goosebumps of like, holy crap, this is really cool. As we're struggling up the grade. That's one of my favorite video game moments. And then real life was when I started working at my current railroad. I just taken the rules class, was signed off to be a student fireman briefly. Student only to get like your just to get your check right in. That's how they do it. Is they make you a student. You learn the physical characteristics. They sign you off. And I don't know. I think it took like 4 days or whatever. But I was put in the cab with a fireman who was teaching me the physical characteristics as I was, firing. I watched him once, then fire at the second trip. And the engineer was one of the SLEs, head honchos on the railroad. And when I was firing, we were coming up to what we call the big hill. It's not very long. It's a little bit steep. And it was an engine I'm absolutely not familiar with. First time firing a saturated engine, and he wanted to see what I was made of. And he dogged it up this hill with the engine nearly in the corner. And I'm there, firing nice and easy, just firing my rear, left corner, left side sheet, right side sheet, middle, and just firing that pattern. And just going along in little tiny scoops, constantly firing. And I had the injector running. And the fireman in the seat starts going like, stop putting in so much coal, you're gonna make smoke, you're gonna make smoke, you're gonna make smoke. And the engineer leans back, looks at the pressure gauge, sees it's just under the safety, and holding there with the gun on. He goes, she's not going to make any smoke, calm down, and just keeps doing his thing. And since then, he's one of my favorite guys to fire for. I love working with him. It's always a blast, but it was like okay, I just proved myself to like the number 2 guy on the railroad. We're cool here.
Nice.
That's my favorite IRL moment. I can't think of any rail fanning moments. Plus, I do it now, so I kind of forget about rail fanning.
Is it sad that I know exactly which fireman you're talking about and also which engineer?
You do not know. You probably don't know which fireman. Text me.
Okay.
But you definitely know the engineer.
Okay. Aw.
See, I don't really have a railroad. As far as like one that I've volunteered on regular. I mean, I'm just starting with the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, so I don't really have that experience to speak to. Although I will say, I'm still in training, but I did have an opportunity to take some of the other volunteers out, and I was the one running the car, and there was about a half dozen riding. And after they showed me the particulars of that car. They were just kind of all chatting amongst themselves, and I was just operating the car. And there's something really nifty about that initial exposure to I am operating something in which other people have essentially entrusted me with their lives and safety, um, and are just doing their thing. Like they're not like if I needed to ask them a question, they'd be there, but they trust me and they're just letting me do that, and they're kind of having their own conversation. And so that feeling of control and trust that you get as a new railroader, that I'm being entrusted with this heavy piece of machinery, is a neat feeling, and that's something that I'm looking forward to exploring more, especially once I'm holding museum guests. That sense that, oh, you're the motorman. You go and you do what we assume that you know what you're doing, and you just do it, and I like that. The other one I'll add is a quick caveat, and this one didn't even involve any equipment moving, but back in the days of the East Broad Top, before the foundation, before there was any sense of the of what that future was going to look like. So we're talking 2017, 2018. I would attend work weekends of the Friends of the East Broad Top. Around 5 o'clock on Saturday, these would be Saturday, Sunday events. So 5 o'clock Saturday, folks would go to the local Pizza Star establishment, get dinner, and head out. And I would usually stay back, and I'd be the one to stay back, and I'd walk the grounds, which now you can't do because they have cameras and so forth. So unfortunately, you can't repeat this. But back then, that wasn't the case. So the sun would be setting, and I'd walk around the grounds of the shops in Orbisonia, and the atmosphere of just everything sitting there and being silent was really special. And now with the railroad coming back, it's great that it is, but that experience can't be repeated, and not just because of the security cameras and the railroad doesn't want you to do that, but because it was such a different time of the railroad's life. It was a time when it was entirely dormant. So there's something special about knowing that you've experienced something that was of a time and is always going to be of that specific time too.
That's pretty cool. Alright, we'll get that guy warming back up. While that's doing that and Squiggy's putting stuff away. We're here at our next major yard. We should probably talk about this a little bit.
I was just saying, maybe, it's called Plateau Yard, but it's not named because of its location.
No.
Perhaps, Nick, you want to run us through the quick history of Plateau Yard?
Thank you, Rudy. Yes, Henri Plateau was an explorer of the region. And when he came upon this area, he was really taken by the beauty of the waterfall. And so scaled the side of the hill and then came to the top and formed a settlement here. This would have been in the 1820s. He formed a settlement here, and it lasted. It didn't last particularly long because it was so remote. I mean, he tried to promote the location, and it just didn't really take off at that point in time. But those who remember the contributions of Mr. Plateau in mapping out a lot of the landscape thought that because he saw particular beauty in this area, that it should be recognized. So this is a Plateau Yard and of the Plateau region.
It is a very cool yard. Just running around it.
This is, what, the 4th iteration of this yard we've built in some form?
In some form or another.
Yeah.
It looks like it's 2 yards split across engine servicing and caboose.
Yeah, so the yard on the right from the screen where you're looking currently, there's like 3 long tracks there. That's kind of the yard for the traffic going to and from the iron mine. And the 5 shorter tracks that are over on your left there, those are kind of the yard tracks for the stuff going to and from the coal mine. And engine servicing is in the middle because you can get to both sides pretty easily. So.
it looks like a lot of yard as we were coming into it the first time. But like having it explained out and getting to run around it a little bit, it's laid out very nicely, where you can. There's a lot of room to work and get to different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing operating sessions in here. You could easily have 4 or 5 trains operating in this yard at once, so you kind of needed the space spread out, or it kind of became a logjam
Which
for
is what we
operation.
found
If it wasn't.
with the original version of this yard way back when.
I remember that.
What?
If Casey, if you want to climb up the coal tower
Can you
here,
climb up the coal
you'll-
towers?
Yep.
Yes, you can.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you'll offer our esteemed guests a very fine view of the yard.
Oh, that's better than me trying to run around in third-person mode here.
Yeah, and I say while we're here, and we've got a bunch of locomotives available to us. I think our next question may be an appropriate thing to answer here.
Yes.
Alright.
So the next question we've got came from a viewer, and it was was there any point to making different types of whistles other than the sound? Was there a reason that certain railroads preferred a certain type of whistle, like a Santa Fe 6 chime, a Rio Grande 5 chime, Southern 3 chime, etc.?
I don't actually know the answer to this one.
I don't think there's much of an answer to it. Hi,
Oh.
surprise! Look,
Oh, you got my
Wow.
message.
Oh, hi.
you messaged me about this very
Yeah.
question.
I was going to lead into I asked an expert.
Well, you did, and the expert, quote unquote, have appeared.
What's
Hello,
going?
everybody.
Welcome to our 1-year
Hello.
anniversary stream.
Happy anniversary!
Thank
It's
you, thank you.
fantastic.
And welcome to Heist. By the way, this was not staged.
I
we
literally
literally-
know. Yeah.
We literally texted Heist about 3 minutes ago.
And here I appear.
What's
Oh,
up, guys?
much
This is-
appreciated.
This is Heist.
What's up, guys? This is Heist, and you're watching the Virtual Railroader Academy 1-year anniversary live on Twitch.
That's getting clipped and going in the YouTube shorts.
Yep, put that in, use it for whatever. You know how many? When I was a rock star and I played guitar for Hellbot, you know how many times I recorded like random snares for random radio shows? Just like they loved having you do that, and so my voice appeared on a bunch of random local radio stations around the country. You'd never know, but yeah, maybe you heard me. Who knows?
Oh, that's fine.
That's very
You're
cool.
listening to the Rock, yeah, like that sort of stuff. It's a vibe. Anyway.
That
Oh,
is
very cool.
So, I genuinely don't think there's any reason other than the railroad's preference, because there's no scientific reason. There's no, this is more dissonant, this is more cut, like, there is nothing to that front. Some railroads had standards where they said, we're going to put, you know, the big 6-chime whistles on the big passenger power because they sound better, quote unquote. And then whatever ghastly awful on the freight power, whatever. But like, it wasn't really consistent, wasn't really standard. There wasn't really science behind it. Single chimes are the cheapest to make. Stairs at Norfolk and Western.
Pennsylvania Railroad.
Pennsylvania Railroad, you know. So it was definitely, there wasn't a heck of a lot of reason for it. And you could see that in the Rio Grande power. I mean, that's where my experience lies, right? Standard gauge stuff, which was the important stuff, apparently, got all the chime whistles and the pretty stuff. And then as the standard gauge got cut up, you got these hand-me-downs to the narrow gauge. Like, all the K37s were built with hoots. Same with the K36. And it's just like, that feels so wrong now that we have like 40 years of tourist railroad history with all these engines, you know, wearing 5s or 6s or whatever. And no, there's no history. There's no reason. Somebody liked the way that it sounded, I'm sure.
And I'm sure there was a lot of copying of the builders too, because you order an engine from Lima, it comes with a Lima 5 chime, and well, you know, we like that. So, quick, measure it. We'll just start making our own in-house.
Yeah, exactly. Lima 5, Rio Grande 5, Northern Pacific 5, Great Northern 5, Alco 5. Guess what? They're all almost exactly the same. So,
Almost
it's
be the
fun.
key word, because it seems to be that even though on paper they are, there's these slight differences in tone
Yes.
that are hard to describe, but it's just you listen to, and even with diesel horns, on paper they're the same bells, and yet it's a slight different quality to the tone of it.
Right. There's so many little effects that go in to affect the timbre of what actually happens. And dimensionally, they may be the same, but I mean, with a whistle, what you're talking about is the rate of steam flowing in and out of the chamber. So the length of the chamber sets the frequency of the note. So if there's a slight difference in how it was cast, slightly different length to the chamber, you're going to get a slight different pitch. But then it's also the temperature of the steam cloud, the amount of steam coming up, and the pressure that it's running at, which ties into that pressure or temperature. So you're actually changing the speed of sound in the steam cloud itself, which is why you get this huge pitch variance compared to a whistle blown on air. But all of those weird little things, I mean, you're talking about crazy fluid mechanics. If you have one weird setup with the languid plate versus the bowl versus the bell, you can make a very different sounding whistle. To the point where 491's whistle sounded totally wrong. We rotated the bell 90 degrees on the bowl. Sounds perfect. Like,
Huh.
what?
What?
Okay,
Wow.
that made a difference. All right, the languid plate's just kind of goofy off to the one side, slightly oval shaped. There you go. Okay, twist it that way. Hey, now we're getting all the chimes we wanted. Weird. So lots of little weird, unique differences that make everyone's like, this is 491's 5 chime. It sounds very different from 20s and 683s and all these other Rio Grande 5s. They all sound slightly different. And it's just from the weird little differences in setup. So anyway.
Very cool.
So one of the other variations too is that depending on the railroad and the time period, some engineers were allowed to pick their own whistles.
Very
the Erie,
true.
I mean, on the East Coast here, the Erie Railroad had a fraternal order called the Order of the Red Spot. That was for their finest and best and most tenured engineers.
And
from
the cleanest
about the
engines.
And the cleanest engines from about the 1890s through the teens, roughly.
Well, you
and
see
the-
it in photos in like the 30s and 40s on the commuter engines.
Yep. But the engineers were allowed to pick their own whistles, and they would sometimes go dig in the back shop, and they'd find something that hadn't been on a locomotive in 40 years and tune it up and throw it on there. So you'd have things, you could always tell which engineer was coming into town by what whistle was on the locomotive.
Very cool. Shall we start heading towards the coal mine?
All right.
Finish up our
Let's
inspection tour?
All right. Let's highball.
Ready?
Thank you, Heist, for the
Thank you,
last
Heist,
minute.
for the last minute fill in here.
Yes.
Very welcome. I'm always happy to come foam about whistles.
And I am happy to talk music theory about whistles anytime.
It's one of the coolest things out there. So
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much.
I
Yeah.
feel like I was on one of those 80s sitcoms where a special guest star comes in and the audience just wildly cheers in that moment. Kind of thing.
well, it is your fine evening to celebrate, so I'm going to leave you guys to it. But take it easy, gents.
All right,
And
catch you easy.
ladies. Laters.
Take care.
Well, that was it for our viewer questions. A good way to go out on that.
I have one more question that's not a viewer question, but is mine. We've done a lot of streams in this last year. What was your favorite moment from a stream or topic that we covered? And this is directed at all of us here on the call, all the viewers there in chat. But like, what
Can I-
was your favorite thing?
Can I answer that first?
Yes.
BMX screaming, throw it in emergency when I count down to 3. That was my favorite moment.
And that's
the
on the
complete-
B side from the last stream, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that was the near collision in the last stream. The rest of us were in a second chat, so we weren't talking over you guys while you were on stream. And the absolute chaos that unfolded in that 30-second period as you almost had a head-on collision was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So somebody decided to go after, and then it was just like, well, we're gonna make this work. It worked.
You know what?
Sort of.
We got to cover a very good topic. What to do when you have to put it into emergency.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Oh, yeah, that was-
speaking of that stream, that was my personal favorite because working with you, Casey, these are train simulators. have always been very forgiving when it comes to train handling, and because you can't feel what you're doing, you don't have that feeling in the seat. It's so easy to just open it up super wide because you're not actually thrown back against anything, nor your passengers. And so working with you and having you explain uh, the way in which you feather the throttle before you open it, and controlling the speed using a multitude of ways, avoiding panic braking. It was the first. It's These are concepts that I knew existed and I've heard them discussed before, but it was the first time it really clicked in a simulator environment. So that was my favorite.
That was, and we talked about this after that one, but that was one of my favorites that we've done in recent memory, just because of like, like I run as part of my job, and like I do it and it's fun, but I really enjoy teaching, and that's why I love doing this stuff. I practically beg for student firemen, because I love teaching student firemen and helping them get really good at it. So being able to walk everything through you and kind of teach you how to do it the way I was taught how to run by the SLEs and the instructors, and Squiggy, we're getting a tad spicy back here. Being able to do that, it checked all of my boxes for me. Of like, well, this is cool. So like I really enjoyed that one, and I'm glad you enjoyed it too, and I hope to do more like that in the future. Um, I don't know, what else does everyone have? I'll go last, because I'm trying to think of mine.
I mean, if you want more shenanigans, we can do more
I mean, just shenanigans, your favorite stream that you were on, the favorite topic we covered, I don't know.
Oh no, I
Anything.
mean in future streams, if you want more shenanigans, well, I'm down. I mean, we can make that happen.
I'm not concerned that you wouldn't be able to provide in that regard.
No.
We should record the audio from both the stream, but then also the back end audio from our stream, and then release two different versions of the same video.
Oh, is this where we shameless plug the Discord channel, the Discord?
We can do that.
'Cause
Could be a way to do that.
there has been toying the idea of for channel members, the student brakemen, student conductors, or student brakemen, student firemen, student engineers, where you can join a voice call and hear the other side of the story for all of the streams, so all of the shenanigans that are going on everyone else in this call, while also being able to watch Nick and I play on the actual stream. That idea has been kicking around in my head for a little bit, so I think it may be time to bring that one back and
If you
actually
want
do
it,
that.
let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if you think that'd be cool, and we'll do a voice call so that way all of the channel members and subscribers can get to see the back end of what goes on with everyone else on the railroad and the shenanigans.
This is not related to the question, so it's a really quick one. Why do we have a hopper car in our OCS?
Oh, that's our open air car.
Oh, okay.
There's
I
no
thought that
gon,
might be-
so the hopper was the closest thing to a gon.
Fair enough. Take it
Gone,
away, Scooty.
but not forgotten.
Oh, that's a
And there
Nick
is
thing to say.
I know, you took my job. I'm concerned now.
There is some precedent to that. I mean, back in this era, before there were purpose-built, business cars, or maybe there was one on the entire railroad or something. There were some instances in railroads that took some like picnic benches and nailed them to a flat car, and that was your excursion car.
True.
I mean
Very good point.
that practice survived up until the 60s and 70s in tourist railroads, but
There was
even on mainline railroads it was a thing.
a tourist railroad running a gon into the 90s, a wooden gon as an open air car.
There's a class 1 that used to nail benches to flat cars to go watch the rowing on the New Haven Railroad. In the 20s, they'd actually go. There's these pictures of all these people sitting on these flat cars, watching the Yale rowing crews going up and down the river.
All right, that's pretty cool. Fun facts.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's one of the other uses for OCS trains. I talked about earlier was public events and excursions before excursions were really a thing.
Mhm.
There'd be annual events that they would sell tickets to, and they'd use the OCS equipment for it.
And while we're briefly talking about OCS again, we do have a book of the day, and you can find it, and we'll someone will drop it in chat, but if in your Discord, we'll also drop it in probably announcements or something after the stream. But it is Conrail Research and Business Trains by the Garbly Publishing Company. Limited stock left, so if you like business trains, if you like Conrail, that is the book for you. Having owned a few Garbly Publishing Company books myself, I can recommend them. It's only interesting stuff, but definitely check that out if you're interested in that. That's our book of the day on business trains.
It is a beefy book. I have not read my copy, but I have my copy, and boy, it is robust, and the print quality is sharp. The photo selection is excellent. So yeah, I think that if you want to know more about OCS, even if you're not a Conrail buff, this is absolutely one to check out.
Well, getting back to our question as we're finishing up our trip here to Mashonkan, or Western. We're getting to Western, I guess.
I think it's Mohawk. That's
Mohawk?
the sign that page says now. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite? Well, what? So we've heard from Nick. We've heard from Rudy. BMAX, Squiggy, Hostler. Do you have any favorite ones that we've done? Favorite topics?
I'd have to say my favorite stream we did so far was the one where you guys did the bridge in the Saco River, where I was able to help convert you guys to the 2-foot life.
Oh, I forgot about the 2-footers. I gotta play that again.
Yeah, that was just nice. Thanks again for talking about our museum. That really helped.
Oh, good. We're glad. And that's, speaking of topics, that's
Well,
one that
it's
we hope
always
to
good to
continue
land,
to do.
and it's always good to land on your own 2 feet.
Oh.
There it is.
God, that was bad.
I had to reclaim my title.
Yes,
Beatnik
you
was threatening my title.
Oh,
I had
no,
to
no.
reclaim it.
You reclaimed it and took out, like, the next generation.
Apologies to Picard.
Oh, God. Yeah. Quick, someone else answer before he keeps going.
Okay. Wow, it's hard to pick a favorite. I guess for favorite subjects, when we covered steam locomotives, for obvious reasons, and I guess the most memorable stream was, in recent memory at least, was when we had our subject on air brakes when I was dispatching for the AM&W on the in Railroader. While it was incredibly stressful at the moment, for me at least, I look back on it and laugh.
That was a good shenanigan you won.
Yep.
Yeah, BMAC, do you have one?
Yeah, I would say probably it's one of the earlier Railroads Online streams where I think it was me, Squiggy, Pilot, who's not here tonight, because this game gives him headaches. I think.
Understandable.
Or something.
He also discovered trucking.
Yeah, he discovered trucking. I think it gives him figurative headaches. Just like it's just painful sometimes. So I get it.
This game gives me a literal headache from playing it.
Yeah.
You're not even watching the popcorn action that I have to
God. Yeah, the popcorning is not great.
God, I hate this game.
But your engineer is getting knocked around.
Was Hostler there too? I think there was like 3 or 4 of us. We did like a union meeting in the middle of the tracks.
Oh my God.
As you guys were coming around the corner into Plateau. I think it was Plateau. Yeah.
It was Plateau. I remember that.
You guys were coming around the... Yeah, we just all kind of like stopped and stood in the middle of the tracks, stopped the trains, and they're like, "What's going on?" Yeah, we're doing doing our union meeting. So.
That's a good one. I guess I'm the last one as we're finishing up our trip. And I gotta say, Rudy, definitely getting Highline vibes from this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cool way of getting up here, and having never touched the actual dev grade. Oh look, there's our other moved industry. That's our anthracite mine. It's the only mine that fills our locomotives. Not like the 2 coal locomotives we have. I guess my favorite, probably it's tough. It's a good split between the mixed train daily one that we did and one of the early streams. I forget which one, but at BMAC you were dispatching, and we were running on paper the entire night. And Nick and I were going up to the oil field, or oil refinery.
Yeah.
That one was a lot of fun.
Oh, I remember that one. Yes. That was a hike.
It was, and it was fun to just run on paper the entire night there and back, and like we spent a lot of time before that stream like figuring out like where station stops were and where like control points were to like where can you get trains to.
Yeah.
That was a fun one to do. And then mixed train daily just because that holds a special place in my heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get away from loving the mixed trains, and thinking about that is just a cool thing. I may be rereading Mixed Train Daily right now, and that's thank you for my Christmas present, and it's I love it. So I think those are mine. What are your guys in chat? What were your favorite streams that we've done? Moments that you've seen, moments that you haven't seen.
Ones that I've shared for the benefit of humanity.
Any questions about how we did things?
Yeah, that's
Enjoy it.
you know, I know a big thing that always comes up is yard design and that kind of stuff, and especially in the Discord. So, you know, any questions about that kind of stuff, let us know in the chat or the comments if you're watching this later. But we're, you know, doing this was getting to help a little bit. You know, I kind of came into this save once Rudy, you'd laid like 90% of it, and I'd kind of poked around and got engines placed and delivered a couple of industries here and there, but largely this is my first time like really getting to like take everything in, and it's a really cool railroad. And I don't know, one of the things I like about having played RO again to set up for the stream was like the model railroad aspect, and like I wish this was an accurate railroading sim, but like it's cool that I can get like my model railroad fix until I can get into a place where I can build a model railroad. It was cool to kind of create all of this and what we could do. So thank you for designing this very cool railroad.
No, I mean, you sent me the map with all the industries moved. I just connected them.
Yeah, the industries were moved back when Spline update. TM. But like, you know, I hadn't really touched it since then. So you know, we were messaging one night, and you're like, "You still have that? Let's do this." And I think I woke up the next morning with like 80% of the map built. And it's cool, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate the game for what it is and what we were able to do tonight. It's nice being back and having this nostalgia moment of where we started a year ago. And thank you for all of our viewers out there. You know, we wouldn't be doing this without your guys' support and interest in what we do, what we talk about, and we've got some really cool things. I mean, next month, Nick, is going to be a really cool one.
Oh, is it now?
Right? That's next month.
Yes.
It is the main
That
one.
is.
That is.
That is. Yep. That is going to be. That is.
So
I had to, and that was my. That was even my idea. So shame on me for having
Seriously?
a momentary. Yes, that is going to be a cool one.
But you know, without you guys, let's not spoil it just yet.
No,
I
I'm
think
not
we
saying
keep
who
them-
the
okay,
special
okay.
guest is. I'm just saying that there is a special
There
guest.
is a special guest.
You'll
And
just have to wait and see who.
no, she is amazing, and we're excited to have her on and the topics that she's going to talk about. And it's, you know, without all of you guys out there watching us every month when we stream and when we upload our VODs to the tubes, we wouldn't be able to, you know, get someone like our guest on if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you for just watching us and being interested. We appreciate it.
You're,
Okay.
on the end of the line here.
We are on the end of the line. I saw a branch over there.
Yep, that is the Pilot Memorial Logging Branch.
Oh, yes. Yes, I forgot that he requested that.
Mhm.
All right.
On which
you-
side?
On the other side of the
so-
river.
Yep, there's another logging camp over there. Pilot wanted a spot he could just run a logging branch and run out to interchange with it. So
Oh,
there's
that's
an
right.
interchange yard in Mohonk coming up.
Oh, the interchange yard is in Mohawk. I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty deep river, obviously. Look how fast it's flowing, too. They don't want to put too many bridges across it. It's
This
very
is
invested in
true.
that. So it's only a single bridge.
All right. So I guess we're gonna wrap around through Mohonk here up to the coal mine. That's the route you took.
Yes.
That's an
Mhm.
interesting
Yes,
way
we're
of doing it.
Yep. So we're in the valley here. We'll wrap all the way around through the town of Mohonk, and then we'll head up to the coal mine. That would be the actual physical end of the railroad. Although for most passenger service, Mohonk itself would be the end of the railroad.
And as a business train, I think it makes sense to end here, and we don't need to go inspect a branch necessarily. It was important to inspect our subsidiary, because they're our subsidiary, and that's their main line. But it's a branch. Don't really.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's good to branch out, but
It is, but not tonight. I wasn't gonna touch that one.
other people
so
did on
bad.
your behalf.
You may want to check on the engine as the engineer appears to have dropped out of Discord chat.
Oh no.
He's back. Okay.
Yeah, Discord keeps crapping out. I don't know why.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're still here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're pulling
Oh
into
my gosh.
the brand new and improved
Oh
Mohawk
my
station,
gosh.
which was the only
Is this Grand
structure
Central
that we had
Terminal?
not built.
Because it's a yard underneath the station. Is there a city
Yeah.
above us?
It
This is
feels
the-
like it.
This is the only station we had not yet built, so we kind of threw this together last night.
Wow.
Well, this is cool. That's welcome to Mohawk. Nice. Oh god, I love this game sometimes. For just like stupid stuff like this. we got a class 70 here. Very nice.
There's a coal train that came down from the coal mine.
And I'm waiting on the OCS to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is so cool.
That's so cool.
What?
Alright, this is cool. Oh, and our other little display engine. The Mohawk.
Fitting.
Check your other station sign
Oh
there,
my god, Nick, did you see that? Oh my god. Oh my god. Is there anything else here that we... Where's...
I'm trying to
Oh my
find
god,
the
oh
stairs.
my god.
I was trying to find the stairs like you had last time. I was certain.
No,
there was-
there's no entrance.
There's no entrance? Oh.
I'm lucky I was able to make this work the way it did.
No, it's a massive.
Oh my god.
But yeah, this is the interchange yard there on your left, plus the engine servicing facility. It's the interchange with the Pilot Memorial logging branch. So
Oh my god. Well, that was hilarious. And sadly, much like our OCS train being over, it is time for us to end. Be sure to catch us all next month in May. We're still trying to nail down a date. We'll hopefully know that pretty soon and get that announced out to all of you guys. It's one you're absolutely not going to want to miss. We have a very cool guest coming on. And join our Discord, like us on social medias, all of that fun jazz. And thank you, all of you, for an amazing first year at the Virtual Railroader Academy. As always, I'm Professor Casey.
And I'm Professor Nick.
And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This was the Office Car Special. Night.
Good night.